If I could be, wave a wand and be in Parliament for a couple of days and change the thing, I would say, first of all, stop offshore processing altogether. It's terrible. It's ridiculously expensive and it's cruel and it does us no favours whatever as a country. How would you do things differently? I often get criticised on social media and elsewhere as being in favour of open borders. I'm not. I'm not in favour of open borders. I make that absolutely crystal clear. But I do think we should recognise boat people as human beings who need help. If we could start from that proposition, okay, let's assume that the boats will start coming again because we'll no longer be seen as a shocking place that treats people badly. And let's suppose the numbers rise to and stabilise at the largest number that ever came. I would say that we can manage that because, really, we're a big country. But I would say, okay, when people arrive by boat, uninvited, sure, put them in detention at the outset, but limit it to 1 month. And that month will be used for health and security checks. And no detention after 1 month unless there is a positive reason shown in the case of a specific individual that continued detention is justifiable and necessary. Then I'd say, okay, after that 1 month in detention, release them into the community, but on a visa which has a number of conditions. One of the conditions is they're allowed to work, basic to human dignity. Second, they are required to keep in regular contact with the Commonwealth government, say by checking into a post office or such like on a regular basis, so they can't just disappear. Third, crucially, until their refugee application has been finally decided, they must live in a specified regional town or city. Not in the coastal capitals, a regional town or city. Now, I first came up with that idea when I was speaking to a group at the Hamilton Club. Hamilton is one of the poshest old towns in the Western District, which is one of the poshest parts of rural Australia. And the people in Hamilton really liked the idea because even Hamilton, you walk down the main street, there are empty windows. There are shops that have closed. There's empty housing. They would love an influx of population. And I figured out that if you wouldn't resettle boat people in any regional towns unless the town was willing to have them. You don't want to put them into a place that's hostile to them. So I figured out that if the arrival rate was 25,000 a year, highly unlikely, and if only one town in 10 agreed to take refugees, their population would increase by about 1%. We could cope. We really could cope. And the irony is that it would cost us vastly less in money than our present system, and it would cost us vastly less in terms of our character as a nation than what we're doing at the moment. Because I think it is clear that we judge a person's character by the way they behave. You judge a country's character by the way it behaves. And the way we're behaving now makes us look like we are a country of bullies who have no sense of decency whatever. I spent some time at the Al-Zatari refugee camp up in the north, a few kilometres south of the Syrian border. Al-Zatari camp is very interesting because at the time I was there, I think there were 80,000 people, and we spent a couple of days there making the film. And what is interesting is that it's because it's a big camp, there's a couple of thousand shops inside the camp that have been set up by refugees, that are run by refugees. In one of the shops, you can hire bridal gowns. Now, the refugees who get to Jordan have a sense of hope for the future. Refugees who get to Australia and get banged off to Nauru or Manus have no sense of hope for the future at all. And there can be few things worse or less creditable for a country than to destroy a person's hope for the future. And that's what we're doing. And we do it by trying to tell ourselves that they're illegal, suggesting that they're criminals. They're not. They're doing what all of us would do if we were faced with the trouble that they've faced.